So, hi guys, good evening everyone, and thank you for joining us for this amazing session of female leaders. My name is Patrick and I am here for Startup Disrupt. And what is Startup Disrupt about? We are trying to build with Startup Disrupt global marketplace for startups where each startup founder can benefit from each other, where they can learn, educate and connect within each other. And it wouldn't be possible for us to organize events like this without our partners, sponsors and other communities members who are supporting us on this journey, like HubHub, CzechInvest, Grow with Google and many others. So thank you very much once more. And together with me here is Pavlina, who is amazing contribution for the All-Female Leaders series.
Hi, my name is Pavlina. I started Holkes Marketing Go, which is one of the biggest female empowerment platforms. This year we will train 10,000 future marketers, and also I'm a mentor for Google for Startup Africa and Europe, and I have the amazing opportunity to host female leaders. I'm really excited about today because what we are going to learn for women and their personal stories and how startup building, how they approach leadership. We will take a deep dive into EdTech world, which I think is the most exciting field just right now, to be honest. And we will also talk to women who are shaping the future of innovation when it comes to also banking. So thank you for watching us and stay tuned. And don't forget to let us know what you liked about the session today and what you would like to see in the future. Good evening. Welcome to the next edition of Startup Female Leaders. We are excited to have you here, and I'm even more excited to welcome Radka Dohnalova and Michala Lohotkova, who will be joining me for the debate about innovation and leadership. I'm super excited to have them on board. Welcome, girls. Could you maybe start with explaining your story, the story of your success, what brought you here, actually?
Okay, so my background is business and finance. And I was working in London, I worked for the UN and I worked for McKinsey. But my sort of turning point or defining moment, or however you want to call it, or a crisis turning point, really happened when I was doing my MBA at Harvard, and my first son was born. I have 3 children. And at that time, I was really questioning what is my next period in my professional life going to be, what do I want to focus on, what is it really that is going to give me meaning rather than sort of being in a hamster wheel and running fast and sort of achieving goals. And so I started to do research among leaders, and out of that research I really got passionate about the topic of leadership development and education, and it's interesting how sometimes things in life synchronize. So as I was focusing on the research, I was sort of going through a personal transformation, realizing what is it that I am good at, and that it's not really numbers, but much more working with people, and that my passions are around leadership and education, and that I want to reinvent that field and bring more things which are focused on internal motivation and adaptivity. And that's basically set up my journey ever since. I went back to McKinsey and already focused on that. And then my second child has autism, and that gave me actually the courage to become an entrepreneur and start a company. And our purpose at Tyinternety is really to reinvent education and leadership internationally and activate authentic and adaptive leadership. And that's what we've been doing ever since. And I'm very happy that last year we became one of the top 10 leadership companies in Europe, which was one of the goals because we always wanted to work internationally. And that's all. Misha, your turn.
Okay, so take it from here. I'm afraid Pavlina will have a hard time with us to get to speak today. So my story is similar and different at the same time because I was born and raised in South Bohemian Woods. So I'm not a Prague child being raised up internationally from the start. But already back then, and truly living directly at the South Bohemian border, and as you can tell also from my age, it was still at the communist time, we were locked up directly at the border. But already then I dreamed of traveling, doing things, and simply get out of the environment, which I loved as a child. I had great childhood there, but I knew my future was somewhere else. As I consider myself quite entrepreneurial, I really did things which were different already at that time. So I studied languages. So at the age of 16, I did my state exams in German. I went to Prague from my village to get my TOEFL exams in English. I went to do Italian and Spanish courses in Český Krumlov and České Budějovice. So I really did slightly different things than my mates at the time. At the same time, I somehow was frustrating my parents, as I did not want to go to university, because I was insisting that I go and work right after I turn 18 and 19 or whatever, the first graduation from high school, which in the end resulted in then convincing me to apply at least to one university, which accepted me here in Prague. So I had to go to university instead of rushing directly in the work process. So of course I'm happy for that. And like I said, in spite of considering myself being quite entrepreneurial, of course, I ended up in one of the biggest corporations in the end in Czech Republic, and a bank on top. So my career is slightly less diverse from one point of view, but believe me, even such a boring institution as a bank can offer you quite a lot of diversity in what you can do there. So I indeed started in my last year of school in ČSOB, stayed there until now, and indeed from a trainee in an international training program of my bank's European group, I'm now nominated and am becoming a board member in ČSOB.
I'm very much excited, and I'm very happy to do that. And also what I wanted to add, we know Radka, we know each other for a really long time because I'm alumni to one of your programs, so I'm super happy to actually ask you about leadership. How did you, who do you consider to be a successful leader? And I know you are passionate about empowering leaders. What would be the key elements to become a successful leader?
I think that's a really challenging question, even though it's really, it sounds as a simple question, but I think, I actually think it's not that simple as it sounds. But I think, and it is also evolving, my own definition. I would say there are three elements. I think there is one element which is completely not linked to any position, and I think it's a certain mindset. And it's a mindset of you being proactive, of taking responsibility, of driving things. And to me, the first definition is really whether people are leaders in their own lives. And to me, that's a sort of like a mindset thing at the beginning. And then there are two additional elements. And throughout the last year, I was really thinking about that definition and how it is actually upgraded and what are some of the changes given all things that are happening. And I sort of came out to the conclusion that they are stable and dynamic elements of leadership. And stable elements, there are certain things which do not change regardless whether there is COVID or whether you are in startup or whether you are in a larger company. And that's really linked to one of my key topics, which is working with inner motivation and actually understanding that every individual has certain strengths, certain passions. And if you unlock that, that's really, it unlocks motivation, which I think is really a very strong power for people. But also the whole collaboration element, and how do you build teams together? How do you bring them together? How do you work on the collaboration? And so that's the piece which I call the stable element of leadership, which to me is relatively resistant in time. And then there is the second, which I call more of a dynamic element in leadership. And to me, there are new elements in leadership that are coming up, sort of new skills that we need to learn, whether in the last year it's much more emphasis on adaptivity, much more emphasis on resilience, on innovation. We all had to learn how do you lead when you are actually from behind the screen, right? How do you motivate people from behind the screen? How do you engage people? How do you create a sense of belonging, etc.? And to me, this all goes into the sort of new skills. I call it sort of like a future-ready skills of leadership, which we need to have to not only respond to things and adapt that are coming up, but also how do you stay ahead? And so that's the third element that I would say.
And Misha, I would be very curious, like building up on this, how did your leadership or your team structure change during last year? Because obviously you lead a huge team and you need to kind of bring forward that stable but at the same time very dynamic element from what Radka was saying.
I must say that given the agenda which I lead now, it was rather natural, and I was quite happy with the process. Fortunately, most people which are in my area are creative people. It's a number of product process managers. It's a number of IT guys, you can say, and girls. It's a number of innovators and a few separate companies who live their own life, I would say, whom I'm having the pleasure to supervise, and all adapted, I would say, very much naturally to the new way of working. I would say that we were what is now called, I believe, hybrid, not full home officing, not going to work, but overall. What has changed certainly was my interaction with them, but within the teams I really felt that the change went really smoothly. Contrary to some of my peers and colleagues in my company where they were struggling much more, or their teams were. Firstly, some people really insisting to come to work. They simply did not and could not imagine staying home. I wonder how much that was given by the attitude of the leader and how much the teams actually were really so resistant to the changes. But I must say that my teams, I did not have to change the structure, to come back to your question. So the technical org chart remained the same, but the flows and the virtuality of the teams became much more important. I will give you one example. During last year, we switched to the so-called safe agile methodology. We did not go into tribes like some other companies, but we went into the virtual teams of scalable agile, which includes virtual structures. And before that, the safe methodology has some ceremonies. One of those is that the teams meet for planning sessions every 3 months in person, few tens or hundreds of people. And I was really amazed that we were able to do sessions like that. 450 people was the biggest one I had for 2 days online with 80 virtual rooms, people really coming back together into the collaborative rooms, splitting into separate rooms. Huge organizational exercise, great work of my team who was able to facilitate that. But we were truly able to do the incremental plan for the next 3 months of work of 400 people virtually. Mm-hmm. And that was amazing, because until then I heard also from our coaches, agile coaches, that, you know, of course I heard Škoda does that with 1,000 people, but they were always, you know, renting out Kongresový palác to meet physically. And we managed virtually. So that was my huge surprise. It was possible, it was very efficient. And we are truly wondering if we keep that going forward. It's, it worked.
I wonder, because for me, I have to share, like listening to you, because I had one really strong negative surprise, if you want. And it was, so last year, I felt like we had to completely reinvent as a company. And I remember I was sitting in December and sort of doing this reflection, how much we've achieved and everything, you know. And then I was actually shocked and negatively surprised by one thing, because I always thought of us as being a dynamic company. We have been growing, let's say, between 20-30% every year since the beginning. And I thought we are sort of innovative, we are sort of driving, we are challengers. And then I'm sitting there in December and asking myself a very sort of disturbing question, which was, how much of innovation last year we would have done if it was not for COVID? And I actually realized it would have been 10%, or maybe 15, I don't know. But then I was actually, and I don't know how you guys view that, but I personally was really struck by that, because I realized if I think about my team and my company as being innovative, but we need such a strong stimulus from outside to be able to actually deliver that innovation, what can we do to create that internally? You know, because for me
that up, indeed.
Exactly,
keep that
to
space.
keep that up, keep that space. So that was something, and I actually have been thinking about that a lot, because it sort of confronted me with the element, you know, what's the potential, what's the boundary, how do you really create this innovative culture, and how do you keep that if you don't have this strong stimulus from outside. So I was wondering how you guys view that, because for me it sort of put me in a little bit of a depression, thinking, oh my God, you know, I thought so highly of my team and everything, and then this, you know, it's like, you know, 10-15% of what we have done this year.
I can confirm very shortly. This, you know, we always talk about burning platform, but I feel, you know, when we try to introduce any type of changes, of course, and starting with our good old education of the change cycle, of course, it's always good to have a burning platform to start from there. So we were thinking the same. At the same time, we felt that the situation last year was truly specific, and we relieved ourselves with not even trying to keep that up, because we know it's virtually impossible, because people at the time, especially last March, April, I would say May, were really sticking together. And the progress we made on a number of even technological changes, and what normally would take us months to approve, well, starting with indeed analyze, then approve, then we would question and talk about budgets and business cases and is it worth it or not. We're really very effective and efficient in making decisions and in implementing things overnight. And that I confirm, and the feeling of we can was amazing, but at the same time, after long discussions, how do we keep this up? We said it's not possible, to be quite honest. It's a specific circumstance which gave the people the energy. We should keep some of it, but it would be maybe foolish to think that it's sustainable over, I mean, infinite period of time. People simply need some incentive, we believe, and that one last year was a very specific one. But also, I'm not giving up. I really believe, and it showed me that we can be better and do much more in what we do.
I love it that you're saying it, because I had exactly the same thing. Like, it gave me courage to do some hard decisions I was avoiding for a very long time. But thanks to those decisions, we grew by 300-400% yearly. And that was really amazing. But at the same time, I feel what you're saying, how to keep that up, how to keep that motivation within the team. And that's basically leading me to the next question. How do you keep the company culture alive and innovative and kind of reactive to all the environments, but at the same time not draining the people? Because all the discussion last year was about mental health issues, and really like kind of, we were so excited March, but by maybe November, I think everybody was like secretly crying in their bathrooms. So how do you keep that up? How do you build that culture in your companies?
Mm-hmm. I think that's it's a question like I am asking myself a lot, right? And I think what I realized, it's a dynamic an adaptive process, right? And it's sort of, as you were saying, sometimes you go, I think there are two things I believe in. And I think there is one, because I have 3 children, right? And when you actually observe how children develop, there is a phase of a sprint, and then there is a stabilization phase. So you suddenly see like a child can, like my son grew a lot over the summer last year, and then the fall nothing, right? Or suddenly you need to buy new shoes, you buy new shoes, and then they last again for several months. And I think this element of balancing sprint and stabilization phases is something that I believe in, because I think so. For example, and last year we worked really hard. I think it was one of the years that I worked the hardest out of my professional career. Yet at the same time, I think it was important because we came out with a lot of relevant content on the new leadership development. What are the new skills that leaders need? And I think we grew a lot, and we also became one of the most innovative companies because we really worked hard and were fast. And I think this is important because if you would have asked me, and we had a lot of reflection at the end of the year, was it worth it or not, right? And it was the price worth it or not? Because it was a hard year. And I came to the conclusion it was worth it, because sometimes you need to move fast, sometimes you need to be adaptive, sometimes you need to leverage that opportunity that's there. And that's the sort of sprint phase. But then I believe you need to have a stabilization phase where you sort of put things in order. You sort of say, okay, how do we define the processes? What do we do? And then you can sprint again. So that's the sort of thinking I am having about it right now. Because I think you cannot run a marathon sprinting. Yet at the same time, when you are even running marathons, there are elements where you run faster and there are elements where you stabilize. So that's sort of my thinking at the moment.
I love it because I to be honest, I really love Chinese horoscopes, and I read it every year. It's kind of my tradition that I start New Year's Eve with. And last year was the year of the rat, where you have to be really smart to kind of get around. And this year is the year of the bull, where you have to be kind of stable and still keep pushing. And I feel it really reflects my feeling around this, and it's about the stabilization phase. But Monica, Misho, sorry. I wanted to ask you about your company culture, how you feel it evolved and how you were able to support your employees during that kind of difficult phase of development.
So I will follow up on what you said before, because I believe for some people it was energy creating naturally. I do not have the nice description or the analysis you made, but when I was reflecting on what you said, I really felt it's true. I believe for some it was a natural energy boost because they had all of a sudden the motivation, the vision, out of the average. They could see that things are possible, that people stick together. So for many, I'm convinced it was a difficult year, of course, like for most of us, but for many this was a challenge or welcome challenge and welcome disruption, because it was indeed different all of a sudden, and that gives certain type of people energy. For some people, of course, and these we can be worried about, it was too much because indeed things have changed, and again, depending whether they were the coming to work lovers or staying at home, was really convenient for them. It really is maybe too early to judge what exactly this will mean also going forward, but I would say that it certainly has changed our culture. I believe it has created more trust, and again, I was always the home office supporter. You can imagine that not all managers or even leaders, if I make the difference, still are. And the fact that we have no tools how to appreciate people, we have no hard tools how to measure performance in many of areas, gave even the managers some uncertainties, and that in an overall mix, indeed was maybe difficult. Thus, the culture of trust, which was needed to be accelerated in that environment, I would stress, which was not given. Spent more time analyzing than implementing, because after as usual, but I think you were even part of it. You know, we were really concerned, as we are quite a diverse group. You have the innovators, digital people who are mainly in my area. Then you have branch people in the regions, which are, of course, totally different sort of colleagues. You have different, professional levels of people, because the corporate segment guys are totally different to the retail segment colleagues. So overall, after having quite some sessions on how do we deal with the situation, how do we deal with the home officing, what rules we will apply or not, what new performance tools, because there are, of course, very, very innovative tools on the market which allow you to better communicate with staff members and measure, if you will, what's happening in your teams when you don't see them. So all you can consider as a startup is a given. I mean, why would you measure or control people? But imagine you have a corporation where indeed some rules are, I assume, understandable, especially in a regulated field like a bank is. So overall, we had perfectly analyzed in order to decide that it's up to each of the managers to decide what they want to do, because they feel best and know best what's good for their teams. So one tool which I will mention is that we have accelerated our employee app. Still 2 years ago, it was just a very basic tool with not much in it except for the menu in the cafeteria. But the situation of last year very much accelerated, and the usage, and people started naturally going into that app for information. We started posting a lot of important information for them in that app. When I mentioned even the flexibility and the extreme speed, so I can say that I believe it was 2 months or 3 months ago, when the rule of every employee has to be tested. Employers have to test. The digital guys managed again in 3 days to create a separate space in that app where all employees of all CzechInvest Group from all our companies are registering their tests in it. So overall, this will be one tangible tool which helped both ways, communication. And overall, I would say that the communication has increased heavily, also the central communication, if you will, which before was felt like not so much necessary when the managers were physically present and talking on a daily basis to the people. So much more attention was paid to the official and the quality of the official info stream. So about that.
Yeah, I felt like I was over communicating with my team and they were still kind of lacking information, so I felt like I'm constantly just sending information over. I love the topic, but still I would like to move on, because you both are passionate about innovation, about what's coming next, about the future and the trends. So what are the current trends you're looking into? What's something you're passionate about? And I will ask you both that question.
So we already, before COVID hit, we created this team ambition that we want to positively impact 1 million people by 2025. And already at that time, we were sort of exploring what are some of the exponential models, how we can do it as a company, because still a lot of the education or leadership development work, even though we've done some virtually, most of it was actually on a one-to-one or working with the team level, etc. So that was a big question that we asked, and we were looking at it. Okay, what are some of the key elements that are happening? And we created 3 pillars how to reach the ambition. One is we call it Atairu TV, where we said, okay, we want to create a channel where we want to bring this leadership education to basically mass market, work much more with like a one-to-N element. And so that's something we are very passionate about, and we are working very hard on and experimenting actually. How can we work with different studios? How can we actually package the content in a way that is going to be friendly to people, that they can learn from it, they can get inspiration. So that's one thing, which is a sort of disruption and innovation for us a lot. Then we have the second pillar, which I called Atairu University, and that's a lot of the things that we've been doing and are doing with companies, with leadership teams, etc. And then there is a third team, which is our third pillar, which is called Atairu Lab, where we are basically we want to leverage this whole data-driven element on some of the leadership aspects. And we have 2 leadership aspects that we work with from a content perspective. One is authentic and one is adaptive leadership, which is sort of the future ready. And we've created this concept with PwC of digital adaptive organizations. And we are now running different researches, collecting data, and actually creating insights that we want to create on an international level, where based on data and based what is actually happening, how can we bring the latest insights to leadership? Because I think one of the key things that are going to be happening is that, and we see that now, is we spend with the team a lot of time actually creating content, but the content grows old much faster than it used to in the past. And how can you continually sort of be adaptive also on our side? So I think these are the things that that sort of I am thinking about also. How can I keep the company on sort of not 1 but 3 levels ahead and 3 steps ahead, and what are key things that I need to be watching? So I think that's these are the things we have a clear focus, but then sort of on my personal level is sort of this continuous question: what do I need to watch? What are the things I need to be aware of to have the company ready and keep this sort of space ahead that I think we managed to get in the last year, but also while balancing the well-being. So I think these are the things that I'm looking at from a sort of leading the company or a founder's perspective.
Thank you. Misha, what about you?
So I will, as I had a bit of time to think about it.
All the time.
You saved me once again. So indeed, I will tell you a short story, which happened exactly yesterday. My daughter and her friend, who was visiting her, and she's 10, came to me. They were doing homework together, and it was in English, so it works. I will say it in English. And it went. They were supposed to fill in what animals do what, or it was sort of a puzzle. And the question they came to me with was, can lions swim? Can a lion, like lion, swim? Umí lev plavat? And can he fly, etc. They were putting together the right animal or guessing it. And I said, I have totally no time because this really was the busiest day for me. And I said, Google it. So they went off, and my idea was that they will type it in the laptop and type in Czech, plave lev, does lion swim? What they did instead was, I managed to tell them, I think he does, but he hates it. And that was it. And I said, Google it, you better Google it. They came back to me like 3 minutes later screaming and said, you're Google. And I said, what do you mean I'm Google? And they actually showed me, and they talked to their phone. They said they are not even bothered anymore typing, and that was the surprise for me. Of course, I've seen my daughter do that more often, but still my stereotype is you type your question. They said, does lion swim? And the answer was exactly like mine, yes. So just try it. They showed me in Czech, can lions swim? And the answer was identical to mine, yes, but he hates it. And so they were so excited that mom is Google. And I said, no, not really, but thank you. And hence my story. We are now super excited about the idea of banking not only being in your mobile wherever you go, that's what everyone does, but we are truly working now on a real digital assistant, voice controlled, who thinks alongside with you or even ahead of you, personalizes and can arrange things while you talk. I don't want to say while you drive, because you shouldn't be holding your phone when you drive, but truly and simply like that. And also, we must, of course, transform the whole company, all the processes, all the data to allow that. So what you will see then in the assistant is just the tip of the iceberg, of course, with a lot of structural change which must happen to a corporation like us. But I believe the future, especially in my field, is very much about not only mobile and the simplicity in such a interaction and client experience arising from such interaction. So with the children is even us old people, I think, will welcome it once it starts working smoothly. That we will actually really like using these types of interaction instead of the typing. So
I must confirm that I've recently bought a HomePod home, and we're best friends, you know. I'm kind of like starting to fall in love with my HomePod, you know. So. And
that's our how should I say it, ambition or goal, that you love our assistant so much you're addicted to it. You want to talk to her all the time, and that's the dream, of course. I believe also for any startup is. So jokes by side, it's about the traffic, it's about the interactions. So that is why. We believe that this will be a nifty tool to get us to the next level.
Mm-hmm. We're coming to an end, so I will have a series of very short questions, and I will ask you to answer shortly, and then we will kind of wrap it up with the last one. But what do you look at when you are hiring people in your team?
Okay. Since I am continuing to go first, thank you, Misha. You're very kind for. Okay, but we need to be fast and furious, so jokes aside. Okay, 3 things. So for me, it's important, of course, some business background and relevant business experience. The second thing, is really a passion for that topic. For me, that's a really key thing. And the third thing is actually adaptivity and resilience.
Mm-hmm.
I would subscribe to those. So you made it simple for me, of course. These are great virtues. So I would add the right attitude. I believe, of course, that many things can be trained, many skills can be trained and discovered. So I would only add to that the attitude.
Mm-hmm. And I can subscribe to that too.
So I'll start with Misha now.
Thank you. So kind of you.
Misha, could you shortly sum up your working style? What has worked for you?
Mm-hmm. I believe I mentioned it before. In short, I think I'm a very common sense person. I can be strategic, but my natural strength is common sense applied to even complex topics.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just so we don't answer the same question, I'll answer it from a different angle, because I think there are certain elements where we are very similar. But from a routine perspective, probably like a working style of a routine. I wake up at 5 and I try to do actually focused work in the morning, because I have 3 kids, and during the day I get so many distractions. And for me, content creation and content is really important element of our business. So that's what I do. Then I try to finish it with a little bit of yoga, some stretch. Then kids and trying to get them to work. And then usually it's sort of meetings until the afternoon, where I think the key, and I forgot, I started to take really cold showers. That's one of the elements that really helped me. So it's a new routine for me. So
that's why I said common sense. No cold showers.
No, it is brutal at the beginning, but it's really something for my energy. And then sort of is a typical day, but I would add two things that I added into my day from a sort of routine perspective that I didn't have before, and that's the walking meetings. I try to do 2 or 3 meetings per day with walking, actually. And the third thing I started to do is, because I was reading from this energy perspective how, and it comes also from athletes, and I'm a big fan of sports, is that you need to pay as much attention to high performance as you do to recovery. So I actually have breaks where I breathe, sort of 2 breaks during the day, which are longer, and I breathe. And then that sort of gets me throughout the end of the day. I don't know, I try to finish around 5 or something and then be with my kids and then go to bed really early. So that's sort of my upgraded working style routine from a different perspective, because otherwise I would subscribe to what Misha said.
It felt like reading one of those leadership books when I always like put it aside saying, I can't do this, you know? So yeah, it's good to see the example that someone again.
It took me time to get there. It took me time, but I think it came out of a necessity, not really a free sort of will, or that I would say this is so appealing, so I want to wake up at 5. No, it just sort of happened, because then I fall asleep early. I have my quality of sleep, and it comes to my energy topic, and I'm a bit older than you are, Paulina, so I am feeling my energy every year. So, and this year it's sort of with this whole intensity of everything that was happening. This is the new routine. And one thing I came to a conclusion with, it's being adaptive, you know. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how long it will last. I can tell you, once we meet again. But for now, that's the routine I have.
And one last question for both of you. What would be your key takeaway, or something that we haven't covered but you would still like to leave in this room? And yes, I'm looking at Misha first.
Of course. So, anyone else? No. But I would say, especially as I believe that you mentioned majority of public of this and viewers of this program will be younger potential leaders. So I would really say that the fortune favors the prepared. So don't push it too hard, but at the same time be confident. Think about what you do consciously, but don't get too depressed if things don't go always as you would think, or someone else even thinks for you, because the things will come together.
So for me, there is this one article that I read, and I really liked several, I think it's like 1.5 or 2 years ago, and it talked about play to win and play not to lose mindset, where the play to win mindset is if you are actually going for new things, trying them, and leveraging what's the environment you're having, and the play not to lose mindset is when you are sort of you sort of hold up too much to what you have created. And I think the times that we are coming into, I think the play to win mindset is very important, because I think the last year has taught us that, the world is very volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. And I think we need to have that mindset, and sort of whatever is coming up in your life, whether personal or professional, see how you can make the most out of that. Because I think having this mindset and playing to win, even though if we make mistakes on the way, it's perfectly fine, but it's still better than sort of playing safe.
Thank you both. I think my key takeaway from this session was really about the resilience and how you keep pushing, but actually at the same time taking care of yourself and taking care of your team. And what I think we learned, all of us, was really in 2020 we gave it a lot of energy, which which gave us courage to start new things, recontract things, but at the same time we need to be able to really self-care and to keep pushing that and to achieve the best results, and in order to create a better future for all of us. So thanks everybody for watching us. Thank you, Misha. Thank you, Radka, for joining me here. And I'm very excited to see your next projects coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, no, I get up. No, 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 I get up. No, no, can't deny it.
Good evening. Welcome to the part of the debate where we will dedicate our time to education and new trends in education. And I'm really delighted to be joined here by Teresa Řezničková and Wanda Seidlová, who are really amazing startup founders who are passionate about education and technology. Welcome.
Hi.
Wanda, what brought you to that point in life when you started kind of a huge company? You were selected among the top innovators in the Czech Republic.
Actually, I think that it was the birth of my son, because before I was already connected to technologies for a long time. I was working firstly in diplomacy, and then I moved to business, marketing, edutech, fintech. But education and its main purpose started to be that important for me when I realized that I have my baby and I want the best future possible for him. So this was the time when I started to think much more deeper about things and about possibilities, how to improve stuff. And since I had the experience with technologies, I saw the gaps where we could do something, much more easy, simpler way, and I realized that this might be the thing that really makes sense for me, and I want to dedicate my time and maybe my life to it.
And could you maybe describe your current company to the people who are watching us?
Yeah, I'm founder of Twixy, which is the online platform connecting parents and their kindergarten. Basically, we realized that there are three parts of the relationship, that it's not just the parent and the teacher, but there is the teacher and the kindergarten management and the parent. There are like three sides of the relationship. In between of all of these is the kid, but the kid itself, it's absolutely virtual in the system. And we try to identify the spots and the agendas that all three parts of the relationship needs to have and needs to have solved. And we tried to build the platform that is connecting them via mobile apps and desktop apps and dealing with these issues. It means in the end that we are connecting them on a communication base, on the administrative base, and in the end we save more than 80% of time of the kindergarten principal or managers so that they can spend more time with kids, not with the papers.
How many users do you have just right now?
We are not that old. It's less than 2 years. Firstly, we were thinking that we will make or build the application mainly for communication. And after MVP, we started to talk even closer with our kindergartens, and we realized that it's just tip of the iceberg, that the communication is very important for them, and they're very happy that it's solved. But if you wanted to be the digitalized kindergarten, you could, but you had to combine so many platforms and so many softwares for every single agenda that you have, for enrollment system, for attendance sheets, for classroom activity logs, and so on, for financing, for your legislation agendas that you need to have towards ministries and so on. And they were talking about their desperation, that they want to spend time with kids, but instead of that, they need to have like that many paperwork. And I saw the potential, and in the end, we decided that we want them to free their hands, and we want to deal with these issues as well. So we started to step by step deal with all of these agendas that they need. And currently, as I said, we can handle more than 80% of their agendas and of their paperwork in one single system and one single platform that in the end is kind of like ecosystem, and it's done automatically. And this is what we see that the technology is for, that the technology should save people's lives and should free their hands for the things that are most important. For us, it means to spend time with the kids, because teachers and managers are the ones who are well educated, and they should spend time with kids, not with papers.
Thank you. Teresa, what about you? That was kind of like a long focus on Wanda.
Okay, so I should follow up on this introduction. Okay, so for me, how I got here, it's a combination of several things. And first is that I've been in the IT sector for almost 9 years right now, and I was a combination as of a product manager and project manager. And at my last company, I was responsible for product vision, roadmap, and I also led AI and innovation teams. So that was the time when I started thinking about how automation can improve lives and where we spend our time. And then there is something that I knew, I believe that since I was a kid, that I want to make an impact. But when I was in primary school, it was mostly thinking about, okay, so let's go to Africa and build something and help there. But over the time, I realized that what I really want to do is to change a system. I don't want to do just a one-off change, but to really change the system. And last year in January, I started really thinking where I want to put my time and focus on. And I thought about 3 sectors, and it's environment, e-government, and education. And when I started writing ideas, and I realized that if I focus on education, all of the other things will come with that. So that this is the fundamental brick of this house. So I decided to focus on education, and that was, I believe, the start of the product I'm working on right now, which is called Edgenio.
Well,
Could you describe Edgenio?
Okay, so it's a web application for primary and secondary schools, and the main focus is to personalize education and to help teachers to track improvements in soft skills. In one sentence, because I've been really trying to find a way how to describe it in one sentence. And as Wanda, we have several stakeholders. So for parents is to have an idea what is happening in school and where are the strengths of their kids. For kids is to have the opportunity to learn in their own pace and also to focus on something that they are really strong at. For teachers is to automate some parts of their work and really similar to what Wanda is doing, to make their hands free to actually spend their time with kids. And for principals is to see what is happening in their school, what are the teachers that have the best outcomes, what are the students that need the help, and to have it in one place.
Mm-hmm. I just read the research created by Depot Ventures, and they said among angel investors, education is among top 5 fields to invest in, which kind of made me really surprised in a way, because I would expect fintech, yes, but not AI, yes, blockchain, yes, but not really education. So why do you think is that? Why does everybody consider it really exciting field just right now?
you know what, I was thinking the same way as you. Even 1 year ago, I was thinking that all of these buzzwords, as you mentioned, are the cool stuff. And then I went to the conference of SaaS application founders, and I told them, well, I have this platform we are doing EdTech. It's not that sexy, but I think it's very important to do it, and it has an impact. And they said, actually, we kind of think that it's very sexy topic. So I was like, okay, maybe it's a new hot topic. I think that people realized, and COVID situation showed us very deeply, that the future will depend on our kids. And no matter what we think, maybe we can agree with that or disagree, but we cannot change it. Our kids will be the next leaders, and there will be the new generation of founders or workers or families and so on in next 10, 20, 30 years. And the society will look like according to those people. So if we raise a good people, if we raise the independent people out of our kids that they are able to work with the information, that are able to have more soft skills than hard skills, which is very weak spot in the Czech Republic, for example. We focus on the hard skills still. So I believe that we are starting to realize it, and COVID situation showed us how old-fashioned this industry is, but how important. And I think that the most important people still didn't realize. I mean, most important people who are the decision makers of the state currently, they still didn't realize how huge mistakes they made if they kept the kids out of schools, because we are number one country in the world that has the longest time of the kids being out of the school. And it's extreme because the impact, in the end, the impact that it has to those kids on the social skills, on not just the hard skills, because I believe this is the less important. Hard skills we can teach them, but soft skills and social skills, you cannot do it online, or you cannot do it online for 1.5 years. So I think that there are people, and I am one of them, there are plenty of amazing people that are saying it loud, and we are the voices to say, well, stop, look, this is important, and kids are important, and if we don't realize it, one day we will be very disappointed, because the situation in our country will look like in maybe Africa 20 years ago, and we don't want to get to this point. So we need to talk about this, and I think investors are seeing it and they are realizing it. So I believe that the new hot topics might be education and, for example, healthcare or mental health care, and these are the hot COVID situation
Yeah,
topics.
definitely. I feel those topics, like among the investors, like really vibing just right now. After the years of focus on blockchain, suddenly there are mental health startups like rising up and really getting investments. Teresa, do you feel it with your startup, this sudden interest or passion about education and focus on that, and especially on those soft skills you cover?
Yeah, it's something that I like. I can confirm what Wanda just said, but when you like in general, what I see that the focus for investments is still mostly in post-secondary education, because it can cover, because like when you look at edtech, it can be Coursera and all those like education tools that companies use. So, and with where there are companies, there are money, right? So when you look at primary and secondary education, it's growing, but vision and mission is, I would say that it's still not as sexy as money. So I can see the positive trend, but I believe that there is still a lot of work to do.
Do you, for example, like, because I see a lot of PR around it, I see a lot of excitement, but you see it, for example, Wanda, I know you got an investment, and do you see it was more difficult to negotiate with the investors, considering that you are not that fintech startup, or was it actually easier?
I think it absolutely depends on what kind of product you have, what team you have. I think it's definitely case by case. I personally have to say I didn't feel any kind of obstacles based on the environment. We already had the working product with paying customers, so we could prove that the thing makes sense. We had the data that we were showing how much time and money we saved to these people. We had the feedbacks. Obviously we had, and we still have, and we will have like a million things ahead of us on what to do, but we already had some proof of concept that the thing that we do makes sense, and it's not just the fake PR stuff or the bubble that we want to raise some money for some, let's say, visionary talks, but it's nothing behind. We had the product that really makes sense. So I believe that it was the point, and our investors saw it, so I didn't feel any kind of troubles with that. But I definitely agree with you that most of the educational, even startups, still focus on, let's say, maybe high schools. They start off high schools, but it's like tertiary education, and it's like extra education apart from the schools. And the thing is that you started to focus on like secondary, primary education, and we add to this topic as well the preschool education, because we realize that the kids, they don't start to like work or exist once they turn 6. They start to exist once they are born, and when they go to their first institution, that means creches, nursery or kindergarten. This is the first place where you put some kind of like educational system to them, and this is the thing that we should start with, because if you make some damage on the kids and their kindergarten age, then you cannot expect that they will be any better in the primary schools, and then you cannot expect that they will be any better in the secondary school. And in the end, you have the university kids that might be desperate or whatever. They don't feel independent, or they are afraid to talk or whatever. It might start from the very early age. So this is what we are adding as well to this discussion.
It's very interesting for me that you're saying it, because, for example, I'm doing a lot of research on Gen Z, the youngest generation, and a lot of them decide not to go to university because they're so disappointed by actually the primary, secondary school system that they just kind of give up and they go straight to work, you know.
We have 2 14-year-olds in my team. Can I say that? Like, it's not like child labor or something. It's really interesting because their names are Emma and Anička, and they sent, and how I found them is that they sent a letter to Ministry of Education in Czech Republic, and they in that letter they said how they want school to look like, and what they are asking for is more freedom, more empowerment, and focus on their strengths, and what like they would actually like to pick where they will focus their time, because right now how education works is that the only thing that is connecting you when you start in first grade is that you were born in the same year and in the same city. And that's the only thing. And then like over the time you can see that there are different interests in each of the kids. Some can be interested more in math, some in art, and I believe that I don't believe that it should start from the first grade. I believe that there should be some base for all kids, but then maybe from the 6th grade it could be more personalized and more focused on what the strength really is.
What would be your vision? Like a perfect, like, let's see, we meet in 5 years and like you have achieved everything you wanted. What would it be?
In 5 years? Okay,
or 10. You know?
Okay, but like if I don't put any deadline on it, so what the end point would be for me is that the school, the goal of the school is not for primary to get to high school, and for high school to get to university and to go through the final exam, as it is mostly right now. But the goal would be to like really teach the kids like how to survive in life, and make them fall in love with learning, because like it never stops, right? And it's something that we need to make sure that we are not like making them angry and really anxious about when they need to learn something more, but rather like make them excited about it. So, but to have some physical idea, it would be a bit more like this space, like co-working space, where kids are going to spend time on something that they decided to spend time on that day. They are not just kids of the same age, but also younger, older, so they can help each other. And because like when you are trying to explain something, you are also like repeating and learning by yourself. And teachers would be there mostly to guide them and to mentor them, to coach them. Because like I believe that there is a lot of things that can be done in an asynchronous way. And right now with the rise of e-learning, we can, like, what I really like about it is that it raises a question: what can be just a video and what should be an interactive session? And what I experienced is that many of the classes could be just a video or any presentation. And what I would love to experience is that the time I'm spending in the class would be more interactive and more about debate and projects and collaboration, because teamwork is something that should be and like need to be part of the work life after you leave school.
Are there any kind of startups or innovations in the education tech that are making you really excited? And I will maybe share from my side what I'm really excited about and following a lot is the On Deck scholarship and fellowship. I just recently joined one of their fellowship for community builders, and I think this is how the education of the future should be look like. It's very collaborative, it's very scalable, it's very practice driven. So I'm asking if there are any startups or any innovations that are kind of making you excited just right now.
Definitely they are. There is more of them. Maybe I don't want to be that concrete because I don't want the... maybe sometimes I'm not that deep in the detail and they are good in one thing and still maybe are lacking something else. But what I definitely saw the trends, and I'm super happy about it, is connecting, and it's for especially elder kids, connecting internships and praxis with students. Even we have the beautiful Czech companies that are focusing on this as well. This is something what I started to do, for example, personally. When I was 14, I wanted to have some relevant internship and it was impossible to have, so I kind of handle it. But now there are already startups that are focusing on it and it's brilliant, so I support this. I also support and I'm very fancy of the learning systems that they focus on personalization and authentication. It's very, it's exactly what you said, because this is, in the end, this is the most important point of all of this. If we have the institutionalized kids, it means that all of them are the same. It's like every single piece is the same. No, you cannot have the society like this, and nobody is the same. You have different personalities. So I like even the future trends of any kind of industry in the education that is trying to disrupt the old normal. I even liked Blabu, and unfortunately they in the end didn't make it. But I loved what they were thinking, that it could be done, because they said, well, you don't have to do it the old-fashioned way. You have so many amazing people abroad that are native speakers, and you can learn by doing, not just by learning. And this is what I loved. So I try to focus on these and see the trends. And I think in the Czech Republic we have a couple of these. To be more concrete, I like Novakit, for example. It's very similar to Blabu. And definitely I'm looking at to American counterparts as well that are focusing on education. In Finland now they are very strong, and I think very soon we will see even the European unicorns in education. But I am personally expecting which one of these it will be, but I think it will be very soon.
Terka, what trends and technologies are you excited about just right now in EdTech space?
First would be extended reality, augmented and virtual reality, because we can see decrease in cost in the device. And then in general e-learning, what I really like and what I just said was that it raises a question what can be just a video, but I don't believe in online only education. And there was a really nice study. They went through, I believe it was like 150 rigorous studies how technology impacts education. And there were three main outcomes. One was that just providing computers and internet doesn't improve outcomes. It improves, but not outcomes in general. Improves outcomes is education, tools that focus on. Third was that when they compared in-person only and blended education, online and digital, the outcomes were very similar, but when they compared it with online only, it was the outcomes were much lower. So I believe that it should be still a combination of physical and online if it's possible, because like then you are having these interactions and you are learning by nature how to interact in a group, how to work with other, how to a way to like find the same outcome. So
recently I was part of the panel discussion during a moonshot conference organized by Aspen Institute, and it was about education and it was different stakeholders, startups quite well. So I know you need to handle all of those stakeholders and the Ministry of Education, and how do you handle that? Because we are talking about like the vision of and then you know we kind of reality of Czech schools recent statistics which really horrified me. Online, even after a year of COVID, they are still not connected to the internet, and to be honest, I'm very horrified by that. So how do you handle all the stakeholders, and how do you kind of market your approach?
Firstly, I absolutely realized that we live in a bubble. Here in Prague, in startup community, in even probably the group of people I grew up from the grammar schools and university, I didn't realize that much that it's total bubble. It's not definitely the footprint of the general Czech Republic society. So it was my first wake-up call. Second, I realized that if you want to change something, you need to attract all parts of the relationship on one board, because if not, then it will in the end not work. If you persuade parents but the teachers will not cooperate, then it's for have on the other hand the teacher that is willing to make some change, but the parents will never reply in any or whatever. In the end it will not work. And if you have both parents and teachers that want something, want to change something, but they come to the principal and he or she says, no, I don't want to focus on it, or I don't want to pay money for it, then in the end you still lost, because it will never happen. So what we realized is that we need to attract all parts of the relationship. This is why we divided the product into these focuses, because we need to be sexy for all of them and to deal and help with their situation as well. Plus, we have the people who are giving the money, right? And if you have the private sector, private education, usually this is the owner, or maybe sometimes it's the principal, him or herself. But if you have the state sector, parent is not the client. Parent is someone who is just bringing the kids. And sometimes they are not eager to make any changes because they know that the capacity will be full no matter what will happen. And this is what we realized. Also, very shocking fact for me was that in the survey that we put to 3,000 parents in the Czech Republic, across the regions and across the types of the preschools. And it was even before we decided to make Twixy happen. We asked them how happy are they with the information from the kindergarten and the tools that are used and so on, and the frequency. And there was more than 4%, something like 4.5% of kids that said that they don't care about this kind of information. They don't need it, and they don't care about their kids. And it was like, okay, this is impossible. Like, okay, how can it happen? So for me, it was shocked that it might be something like this. On the other hand, this is definitely not, also this is the niche, right? So in the end, we know that we need to focus on all of these parts. Very often, to change the education, to disrupt the old standards, it's a very long-term way. We cannot expect that it will happen like magically across one night, but we are working on it, and we believe that slowly we are getting to that point that people realize how technology can save their time and it can help them, and it's nothing harmful. It's not that we want to replace people for robots or give them computers and say, okay, we don't need teachers anymore, or this is what we think it's technology. No, this is not technology. Technology should support those very high-level people who are already doing their job, but they are just defocused on from the important stuff.
What about you?
Yeah, like we have a similar approach that we divided our app into different parts for each of the stakeholders. And if I will go like one by one, and what is the current situation with principals, they are right now swamped with the current situation, and it's really hard to get in touch with them. With parents, if I speak with parents who are focused on their kids and they really want their kids to learn something rather than get into the next institution, those are really excited. With students, it's as we have these two young girls in the team, it's really nice to have their voices in our team, so they are also helping us with the research within their like co-students, or how is it called? And with teachers, this is the part that I was surprised the most, and it's sometimes even touching, like, because they are really helpful, and they like I don't want to say that like everyone, because I had some meetings with a teacher who said me that like there is like from 53 teachers in their school, there was like just 3 who went online, which is something that it's like I can't even like put this like picture in my head. How is it possible? But what just happened like last week is that there was the teacher who was so excited that he approached a magazine for schools, and he then came back to me that like, okay, so there is a deadline actually this week that I can put there an article, and that he will provide me with that he will write something. And it's just like, how is it even possible that there are people who are so open and like so happy to help, and this is something that I'm really excited about. But then there is still this passive part of teachers, and then there it will be another mission to change their minds, or like if it's even possible. But one of the things that I'm now playing with is that what I saw in Bratislava in Slovakia, and it's that some high schools tried a different approach to applications. And it was changed from just like the classic one, like math, Slovak and English, to projects. And what it makes, like, because what I said previously was that like there is still this point of view that the goal of education is to get to the next institution. What this change will make is it's like a domino effect, right? If you can still have the same goal just to get to the next, but if the conditions to get there are different and more focused on like soft skills and presentation and put like some entrepreneurship, then you are changing the focus of like all of these steps before. And this is like really nice hack that I saw, and I'm playing with like maybe can we do it also here? So this might help.
We're coming to an end, so I will ask you a series of short questions and then I will ask you to wrap it up. So, what's that one lesson as a founder you learned?
It will be very dynamic. You cannot, and you need to have your team and never be afraid to ask for help, because otherwise you will not make it. And when you love it, when the thing that you do is your dream, then the sky is the limit and you can achieve anything if you believe in it.
For me, all of the above, plus like make sure that you will first focus on a product before you start talking with investors, because it will take a lot of time, and before you figure out what the product should be and what is the main value, it's not the right time, at least for me, because it took a lot of energy and actually it made me think that like I don't even know if I want to continue. And second, and it's actually like how we started, and it was a switch that I realized that like first I started with a vision and focused mostly in product on a vision, and right now I'm much more focused on a customer.
Excited to ship?
For me, soft skills, because it's something that I heard from almost every team. They don't have the tool, how to measure the progress. Willing to try, they are willing to like help those kids to learn, but they don't know how to measure and like how to approach it in general.
For me, especially as a parent, it's sharing the information what the kids are doing in the kindergarten, so that when I pick my son up from his class, I don't have to ask him what did he do, and he say I don't know or nothing. Know exactly what he did, and I can continue in this and I can support him in it. Very important thing for me and for teachers, because this is the other side, is to let them be and let them do their job, because the rest could be done by Twixie.
And a natural question, what are you learning just right now? It's the one thing.
I'm learning how to not be crazy from being the founder of the growing company, because I never experienced that before. I run some businesses, but it was never the stage of absolutely crazy, very quick changing of mindset, of team, of everything, growing that fast, expanding worldwide. So I'm learning how to put all of these together, and I know, and this is what I already learned, even though I'm on the beginning of my learning and it will never end, is that I cannot be alone, that it's not me, Twixie is not me, it's my team, and all of us are in there. And if you have any kind of company, it's like an engine, and you have these wheels, and no matter how little the wheel is or how huge the wheel is, if one is missing, it will never work. So I am always saying, even to our teammates, well, we have the cleaning lady, and she is one part of the team, because if you don't have coffee there, if you don't have cleaned toilets, and in the end, if you have nothing, nowhere to sit on, well, you will be probably unhappy, and if you're you will not work well in the end. So this is what I realized, that team is absolutely is no like lower or higher position. Everyone is same important, and this is what I try to emphasize to my team.
Terka, what about you?
For me, it would be also like trying to not to be crazy, but in a bit of a different sense. And not to be crazy with ideas, because like I would really love to do all the changes and at once. I'm trying. Great thing that I have a co-founder and she is the one who is like pushing me back. And second thing would be how to work with much less resources, because for everything, and right now it's like you, me, and me. No, like we are a really small team, so right now, so it's much harder prioritization and like decisions where we want to spend our time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. One of the key takeaways, and I'm going to use Vanda's metaphor just right now. If one wheel is missing, the car is not able to drive. And really, if we are talking about EdTech, we need to not only focus on technology, but we need to focus on the people around it, and we need to focus on different stakeholders and have them on board in order to work it all out and actually have that future for our kids and ourselves as well. Thank you for watching us. If you are excited about anything that you have learned today or watched today, whatever, tag Startup Disrupt, share with us on social media, what did you like? And also let me know if there are any inspiring female leaders you would like to see as guests for the next edition. So thank you girls for being here with me, and thank you all for watching us.
No, no, I get up. No, 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 no.